Hey, how's it going? I'm Seth, and this is my colorless artifact deck. So my commander here, Karn, Legacy Reforged. He's a 5-drop, and his power toughness is actually the highest mana value among artifacts I control. So the lowest he'll be is 5 because he himself is a 5, but if I have anything else that's higher than a 5, then that's what he is. So if I have a 6-drop out, he's a 6/6, and so on. And then at the beginning of my upkeep, I add a colorless mana for each artifact I control, and it does not, I don't lose that mana as steps and turns end. So basically the point of this deck is I play a bunch of artifacts, get Karn out, get a bunch of mana to get more artifacts, to get more mana to get more artifacts, to hopefully be able to swing out on my opponents, or, do silly, funny artifact things and kill them through that. So getting into the important pieces, we've got some ramp right here. So we've got Ornithopter of Paradise. It's a 3-drop for a add 1 mana of any color mana dork, just alright card. Decanter of Endless Water gives me no max hand size and tap for any color. Mindstone, 2-drop for adding a colorless mana, and if I, get enough mana out, then I can then later sack it to draw a card. Foundry Inspector makes it so artifact spells cost 1 generic less to cast. Soul Ring, obviously, and then Folwar Stone. I can add any color that my opponents would be able to produce, so it really depends on my opponents, but since everything in here is colorless, it really doesn't matter. Next up, we've got some basic life gain. So I've got Spectrum Sentinel, which is actually really great. It's a 1-drop for 1/2 that has protection from multicolored, so if my opponents are playing really any other deck besides like a monocolor deck, then this can be really good, especially against commanders. And then whenever a non-basic land enters under my opponent's control, I gain a life, and that includes anything that except mountains, forest, plains, island, whatever. It's just non-basic. It's not like it has to be multicolored or whatever. Ivory Tower, at the beginning of my upkeep, I gain X life, where X is the number of cards in my hand, -4, so if I do have cards out, if I do have a bunch of draw, and if I do have Decanter of Endless Water, let's say, and no max hand size, then I'm getting a bunch of life, hopefully. I haven't really been able to get that a bunch, but it is a great card to have just in case that does happen. And then Fountain of Renewal, at the beginning of my upkeep, I gain a life, and then I can later sacrifice it to draw a card. So, not a ton of life gain in this deck. I mean, it's colorless, there's not a whole bunch you can do, but what I have is usually enough. For Recursion, I have Junk Diver. When it enters, I just bring a target artifact card back from graveyard. There's not a whole lot of Recursion in here either, nothing crazy. Next up, we've just got some Anthem. So Metallic Mimic and Brass Herald, they both enter, and I choose a creature type. Usually I choose Golem. Metallic Mimic will count as a Golem in addition to being a shapeshifter, and creatures of the chosen type will enter with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So usually I choose Golem because there's more Golems in here than most other things. There's a lot of constructs as well, but I think Golem is the most prevalent creature type in here. So Karn will enter with a +1/+1 counter, Brass Herald will enter with a +1/+1 counter, and then Brass Herald, I choose a creature type, and they just get +1/+1, creatures of the chosen type do. And then Chief of the Foundry, artifact creatures I control get +1/+1. So these are all just great cards to have. Foundry, or Chief of the Foundry, is definitely one of the better ones because it doesn't restrict it to just golems. It can be constructs or golems or whatever it is. As long as it's an artifact creature, it gets the buff. Moving along to removal. So removal is really tricky. I only have one spell in here that is not like a permanent, so Null Elemental Blast is the only thing in this entire deck that isn't a permanent. I know that there are other colorless spell cards, I just haven't gotten around to getting them, and I don't even know if I do want to get them. I do really like the fact that I'm playing pretty much primarily only permanent spells whenever I cast something. But Null Elemental Blast is good, especially against multicolored stuff, because I can counter a multicolored spell or destroy a multicolored permanent. So in the case of, most commanders, this is just really good to have. I can counter it or destroy it on the spot. But most of my other removals in here are stuff that I have to cast and then later, use its ability to sacrifice it, like Boombox as such. It says 2-drop artifact, but for 6 mana I can sacrifice it, and I can destroy up to one of multiple different permanents. So 1 target artifact, 1 target creature, and 1 target land. So it's pretty good, and if I am able to recur this, then it's just pretty alright removal. Meteor Golem, 7-drop 3/3. When it enters, I destroy a permanent. Dust Bowl, I can sacrifice lands to destroy other non-basic lands. And Bumbleflower Sharepot, I can sacrifice it to destroy a non-land permanent, but only on my turn. And Universal Solvent, I can sacrifice it to destroy a target permanent, just like Bumbleflower Sharepot. But yeah, that's about it for removal. There's not a whole lot I can do other than that. But I did find, ways to work around it, obviously. Past, regular removal spells. Next up, we've just got some funny cards here. So Soul Foundry is actually really good. Soul Foundry, I'm able to, when I cast it, and when it enters the battlefield, I exile a card from hand, or a creature card from hand, and then I can basically just cast copies of the creature card that I exiled underneath it. So if I cast something like Chief of the Foundry, or, Foundry Inspector, so something that, will buff my creatures, or rather, my creatures will cost less, then I can just do that over and over and over again. It's only once a turn because I do have to tap Soul Foundry for it, but even then it's still really, really good because I get, like an Anthem card that I would normally only have one of, but I get to have a bunch out. And then Mimic Vat, whenever a non-token creature dies, I can exile that card, and if I do, I return each other exiled card with it, and then I can create a token copy of the creature exiled with it, and it is then exiled at the next end step. So it's a little worse than Soul Foundry, but it is like if an opponent has something that I want, then I can get rid of it after it dies, and then I can then have it for a turn, which is okay. Next up, we've got some draw. So Nexus of Becoming. At the beginning of my combat, on my turn, I draw a card, and then I can exile an artifact or creature card, which is pretty much everything in the deck, from my hand, and I can make it. I make a copy of it, but it's also a 3/3 Golem. So if I have, maybe a non-creature artifact in my hand that I need to get out, then I just can do this, draw a card, and now I have a 3/3 Golem that also is, another artifact. Maybe it's like Boombox or something, but yeah, it's really good. Mask of Memory, when a equipped creature deals combat damage, I draw two cards, or I may draw two cards, and then I discard a card. Really good to just, dig through my library a little bit. Jalum Tome, 2 mana, draw and discard, whatever. Lork Seeker Stone for 3 and tap it, and I can draw 3 cards, and it costs 1 more for each card in my hand, so if I already have a huge hand, it's not super good, but it's still fine. Especially if I have unspent mana that I, don't necessarily need right away. Hilda's Crown of Winter, I can for 1 mana, tap target creature, and then it costs 1 less to activate during my turn, which is just on my turn, it's just a tap ability, it doesn't cost any mana. And then later, for 3 mana, I can sacrifice it and draw cards equal to the number of tapped creatures under my opponent's control. Really depends. This is really good against, a swing out, like a token-heavy swing out deck, because they swing out at me with a bunch of creatures and then I draw a bunch of cards. But it hasn't been super useful. The most I've gotten off of this is 7 or 8, which is still really good. That's probably the best amount to draw. But anyways, yeah. Seer Sundial, whenever a land ETB is under my control, draw 2 cards, pay 2 mana to draw a card, which is great. Usually I do have under Karn a bunch of unspent mana that I can just use to, I play land, I pay 2, I get another card for turn. But that's it for draw, nothing too crazy. Then we've got some, finishers you could say. This is really more of an important piece, but these are all kind of sort of finishers. So Runaway Trashbot is great for later game if, there's already been a couple board wipes or people have been clearing my board. Maybe I'm just not having a super good game and I've got a ton of artifacts in the graveyard. He's really good because I can get him out and he has trample and he gets 1+ to his power for each artifact card or enchantment card in my graveyard, which, if it's late game and there's been a couple board wipes, is going to be a lot, which is really good for me. Giggling Skitterspike, 4-drop for a 1/1 indestructible, but then his second ability is so good. Whenever he attacks, blocks, or becomes the target of a spell, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. And he also has Monstrosity 5, which can effectively puts 5 +1/+1 counters on him, making him a 6/6. So whenever he attacks, blocks, or becomes the target of anything, deals 6 damage to each opponent just off rip, which is so good. Lux Artillery gives all of my artifact creature spells Sunburst, which means for each different color mana spent to cast them, they enter with that many +1/+1 counters. So if I were to play Karn, let's say I have Lux Artillery out and I'm casting Karn for the first time this game, and I spend 2 colorless mana and then like a white, a blue, and a red mana off of, you know, maybe some artifacts I control that can add any mana or mana of any color, then Karn will enter with 3 +1/+1 counters, which is really good in the event that I have, you know, mana rocks and mana dorks that can add any color. However, I haven't been able to use it super well, and it also has, at the beginning of my end step, if I have 30 or more counters among artifact creatures I control, it deals 10 damage to each opponent. Like I said, it's kind of difficult to get that off. It really depends on, you know, my board state and what kind of mana rocks I have out that are able to produce different color mana, and usually I'm only able to give, like, a couple spells Sunburst a turn, because most of it is just colorless mana, but hopefully I do want to get this off somehow, sometime. Fire Shrieker gives equipped creature double strike. That's pretty much it. It's a good finisher if I'm swinging with Karn, I guess, and just makes him more of a threat. Scuttling Doom Engine cannot be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, and when it dies, it deals 6 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. It's not really a finisher per se, but 6-drop for 6/6 that deals 6 damage and can only be blocked by certain creatures is pretty good. Ancient Stone Idol, 10-drop. It costs less for each attacking creature. I can cast it at any time, and when it dies, I create another creature with trample. This is really mainly in here for the 10 mana cost, because Karn, if this is out, will be a 10/10. And I think this is the highest card in the deck, I'm pretty sure. So just off of him, this is like the most powerful Karn can get, just off of his base power toughness. But yeah, that's it for finishers. And lastly, I have just important parts of the deck. So Pyxis of Pandemonium. This is just a really funny card in my opinion. I tap it and each player exiles the top card of their library face down, and then later all of the cards in exile I exiled with it are revealed, and any permanent cards just go right onto the battlefield. In a deck like this, where there's literally only one non-permanent spell, this is really, really good for me, because I can just do it however many times I want, and then basically guarantee that I'm going to, you know, double or triple the size of my board, while my opponents, yeah, it'll help them a little bit, but maybe they'll have like spells or board wipes that they can't cast because it's only exclusive to permanents. So this is just a really funny card. Bounty Board, it's another mana rock, but it also adds to drawing and gaining life, so it's just like all around a great card. You know, it gives me mana, gives me draw, gives me life. It's just all around a great card. Golem Artisan has saved my butt so many times. He's a 5-drop for a 3/3, and he has 2 abilities that cost 2 mana and no tapping required whatsoever, so usually I'm able to use them pretty often because of the mana I produce from Karn. So for 2 mana, target artifact creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn, and for another 2 mana, target artifact creature gains my choice of flying, trample, or haste until end of turn. This is really good, especially when I have so much colorless mana racked up over a couple turns. I have this guy out, and it's pretty much GG's from there. If Karn's big enough, and I've already dealt a little bit of commander damage, then with Golem Artisan and the mana floating I have, I can pretty easily, Karn gains flying, he has, you know, trample, he has haste now, whatever, and, you know, GG's from there. He actually saved my butt. The last game I played with Karn, I think my opponent was at 8 commander damage from Karn already, and he was playing Rats. And with Karn, I think Karn was at 12/12 at the moment, and so I needed to deal 13 more damage, and I had just enough mana to give him flying and the +1/+1. It won me the game, so really, really great card to have. Feromi Vault, for 3 mana, discard a card, and I look at the top X cards in my library, where X is the number of artifacts I control, and I can put one of those cards into my hand. It's basically kind of a tutor, sort of, because I don't have to reveal that card, and it's for however many artifacts I control, for only 3 mana. So I'm basically getting an additional draw, but I get to choose it through however many cards, you know, I have to the amount of artifacts that I have. Either way, really great card. Leyline Axe, if I have it in opening hand, I start the game with it out, and then equipped creature has +1/+1, double strike, and trample. Yet again, just a really good card to have out, slap it onto Karn, and it can be pretty quick game from there. It That Heralds the End gives all my colorless creatures an additional +1/+1, and spells, colorless spells with mana value 7 or more are 1 less to cast. This is fine. Like, I know it's an Eldrazi, I think it's the only, I think it's like one of Now, I think this might be the only non-artifact creature in here, but since it's colorless and it just gives more colorless Anthem, it's fine. It works. Pen and Blade, not too crazy. Definitely would be better in like a token deck, but with some of the cards in here, it's fine. Equip creature gets +1/+1 for each creature I control, and it's 4 to equip, so hefty equip cost. However, you know, Karn's already going to be kind of big, and then with Pen and Blade on him, depending on how big my board state is, can be really, really, really powerful. And then Mishra's Self-Replicator. This is a great card to have, especially in, you know, an artifact-heavy deck, because it's specified towards whenever I cast an historic spell, which are artifacts, legendaries, and sagas, I can pay 1, and I create a copy of this creature. So yeah, it's a 5-drop for a 2/2, but once I get him out, I just play another artifact, pay 1 mana, copy him, and I can do that over and over and over again, and it's exponential because I make 1, and then I make 2, and then I make 4, and then I make 8, yada yada. You get the gist. Usually when I get this guy out pretty early, it's really, really difficult for my opponents to slow me down because the copies are also artifact creatures, which means Karn will add more mana, which means the more artifact spells I can play, the more guys I can make. It really just fuels itself, and it's really good. And then Cliffhaven Kitesail, it just gives creature flying, which there isn't a whole lot of in here, but giving Karn flying is just that extra little, you know, oomph that I need to maybe swing out and win the game. And then finally, Karn, Living Legacy, which is one of the Karn Planeswalkers. He just creates me Power Stones. I can fetch cards from my library for any amount of mana that I pay, and I can get an emblem that is any artifact I control can tap to deal 1 damage to any target. I don't think I've used the -7 ability yet, but just creating the Power Stones, you know, get more mana and then also more draw. It's pretty alright. But anyways, that is about it for my Karn deck. I have a lot of fun playing it. I haven't played it a bunch recently. I built it at like the end of last year, and from the games I've logged since like mid-January, I haven't really played him at all. But he's really, really fun to play. My friends find him super, super scary, which he is. Cannot argue with that. But I have a lot of fun playing with him. He's a blast. Anyways, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed. You can find my decks on Architect, and that's about it. Have a good one.